Okay, so we're back talking about religion. Oh goodness, so wow, let's take a look here at what's happened to our society. Well, we touched upon what was going on with Green Church, with their division into that big sect, and then they formed the denominations. Look like they've come back together, getting along. Over in Blue Church, that sect that popped off of there is still a sect, still kind of hovering around, have not rejoined, did not form denomination. Then, wow, while all this was going on, and everybody was so centered on their own doings, do you see what formed? Wow, this is scary. We have purple circle cult and red square cult that have formed. Goodness, how did this happen? Now, before we talk about that, what we need to talk about is what a cult is, because a lot of people misuse the word cult. And in order to have a cult, we have to have three things. The first is that cult is founded by a charismatic leader with a powerful personality. And it's through this leader that the religious message is revealed. Now, charismatic, what that refers to is like a magnetic personality. People are naturally drawn to this person. Perhaps the all-time greatest example of a charismatic person is Elvis. When Elvis was alive and he would walk into a room, even if he did so very quietly and without anybody, without calling out to people, people naturally knew it. It was almost like an experience that they could just feel like ripples through water moving through the crowd. And people would turn to him and want to go up and talk to him. Or if they couldn't, they just wanted to look at him. He was a charismatic person. So it's through this person that this message is revealed. Now, of interest, there's very few cults that have been founded by women. They've almost all been founded by men, which is interesting little sociological phenomenon. Now, it's this person, and he or she claims to have a new revelation or a new insight that perfects a previous tradition. So in other words, if you're sitting in church one Sunday morning and the pastor comes in with a trash can and says, "Everybody, throw your Bibles in here because, man, I've got something new and something better than what you've got there." If that happens, you're not sitting in a church anymore. Guess what you're sitting in? Exactly right. A cult. Because that's what a cult claims. New revelation, or a revelation, an insight that perfects a previous and existing tradition. Then the third thing that has to happen for cult is it has to be viewed with suspicion by the other older churches as being heretics or sacrilegious. So in other words, what's going on inside of purple circle cult as well as red square cult, the people in blue circle church as well as the people in green circle church do not like it. They do not like it at all. And that's what gives us a cult. Yeah, wow. Now, a lot of people freak out when I say what I'm about to say. So go ahead and sit down. I'm going to tell you the story about the forming of a really, really popular cult. This was about ballpark 2,000 years ago. There was a man who was very charismatic and had a very powerful personality. And you might be wondering, well, how charismatic was he? How powerful was his personality? He could walk up to people who were going through their job and get them to stop doing that job just like that and follow him. For example, he could go up to fishermen who were fixing their nets, repairing the tears and the holes in their nets, and he's told them, hey, put down those nets. I'm going to teach you not to be, fishermen, but I'm going to teach you how to be fishers of men. Wow. And this same man claimed to have a new revelation that perfected the previous tradition that was Judaism. Now, this man was viewed with suspicion by that older church that he claimed that he was perfecting. And chances are by now you know the person of whom I speak. This is Jesus of Nazareth. Yes, a good thing you sat down, isn't it? Christianity began as a cult. And you might be saying, Mr. K, it's exactly right. And you might be saying, why? And it's because it fits the definition of cult. And this is why we have to talk about religion. We have to learn all these terms so we can talk about them correctly and educatedly. Wow. Christianity began as a cult. And this is why the early Christians were hunted down and captured and killed or thrown to the lions in the Colosseum, because the Jews got together with the Romans and said, man, there's some crazy stuff going on with this Jesus guy. This is not good for the empire. And the Romans said, well, what's the crazy stuff going on, guys? And then the Jewish leader said, well, he rose from the dead. He's a zombie. And the Romans said, the Christians worship a zombie? And they said, yeah, and that's not all. They do this thing called communion, where they eat his body and drink his blood. And the Romans said, boy. Call the centurion, we're going out, we're getting them, because we can't have this going on in the Roman Empire. We can't have zombie worshiping, blood drinking, flesh eating people walking around. We can't have that. And if you're curious, other religions have formed the same way. The Buddha, he broke off from Hinduism, claiming a new revelation, a new insight. So when we use these terms, we have to use them correctly. Wow, I know, amazing. So now, the last slide here. What happened to that purple circle cult? Well, sometimes what can happen is the people in blue circle church and green circle church can get together with the government, people who don't even go to church, and say, we have to stop this. And then the government rolls in and squashes the cult. Or, look what happened to Red Square Cult. It turned into church. Exactly right. And this is what happened with Christianity. And in case you're curious, Christianity today is the world's largest religion. Started off very humble, very small beginnings, just 11 men, and now it's the world's largest. Wow. And look what happened to Green Circle Church. It's divided even more into all those different denominations or movements. What an amazing story. So, you should be able to do a quick little self-check. Not only be able to define, but be able to talk about intelligently. Phenomenological approach, church, sect, denomination, movement, or cult. So I'm glad we had this chance to get together here and talk about talking about religion. So be well, do good work, and keep in touch.